said that they don't want marijuana businesses in their towns. There's a remedy for that, and as part of the law that was passed in 2018. If you live in a municipality where the governmental agency, the local government, has opted out of recreational, you can force an opt-in by getting a ballot put on the next election. In order to do that, you have to figure out how many people in that government area, township, village, city, whatever, you have to figure out how many people voted for governor in the 2018 election. You have to collect signatures on a petition that equals 5% of the total votes for governor in the 2018 election. The law says the last election being 2018. So let's say you live in a village and 1,000 people voted for governor in 2018. You only need 5%, so that's 50 people. You get 50 signatures on petitions, it has to be put on the next ballot. And I believe there are some deadlines coming up. We've already passed the deadline for the March primary election. Those ballots or those signatures needed to be collected by the beginning of December. And I believe the next one's coming up in either January or February. If you go to the state of Michigan Secretary of State website, you can find all that information out there. And actually, if you have questions about this and you want to opt in or force an opt-in in your community where they have opted out, contact me at Southpaws. Just go ahead and message me on the Southpaws Facebook page, and I'll steer you in the right direction. I'll tell you who you need to talk to about getting the process done. And I'll be honest here, I'll disclose this. I've helped with efforts in Sidney Township in Montcalm County to help get that organized. So I'm a little familiar of what is needed to do this. In that article, it mentioned that there were retailers that were running out of product. And I have this. This is Elizabeth Balboa writing for Yahoo Finance. This is dated December 10th. Demand for recreational weed is pretty high in Michigan. I see what she did there. Oh my gosh. She continues, I'm just going to skip around the article here. She had talked with Lit Provisioning Center in Everett. They exhausted their supply in 2 days. Greenstone Provisions ran out of supply on their first day. They have attempted to restock their inventory daily. Since legal sales began December 1st, nearly all licensed pot shops have had to turn away buyers. And it's because the state has dragged their feet on this like they have before. It was worse under Governor Rick Snyder, and I'll explain that in a minute. The pace of Michigan's regulatory process hasn't helped the industry. The Marijuana Regulatory Agency has licensed only 10 distributors so far, and only 5 have begun sales. The few active players have been burdened by extreme statewide demand. Additionally, Michigan has licensed only 3 processing plants and 1 cannabis transportation business, which has made retail restocking problematic. And actually, here's what's going on. A lot of the businesses that are able to sell recreationally already have medical licenses. So what the state is allowing them to do is to transfer no more than 50% of their inventory from medical to recreational. And here's the thing. Before they can transfer any of that, they have to get permission from the state of Michigan, from the Marijuana Regulatory Agency. And they have to provide a list of the barcodes that they wish to transfer over from medical to recreational. So there is a bit of a process involved in this, and it will take some time. But I am confident that the new Marijuana Regulatory Agency under Governor Gretchen Whitmer is going to get this done, and at a very rapid pace. And it's going to come at a time where some of the thoughts and the feelings about marijuana are changing, especially in professional sports. I have this story. This is Mark Osborne writing for ABC News. This article is dated December 12th. Major League Baseball has become the first major American sports league to remove marijuana from its list of drug abuse. Unbelievable. The league, in association with the Players Union, announced the changes to its joint drug program on Thursday morning. Pun slightly intended there. The drug will still be tested for and could result in punishment similar to its alcohol and violence policies. MLB said in its release, quote, natural cannabinoids, e.g. THC, CBD, and marijuana, will be removed from the program's list of drugs of abuse. Going forward, marijuana-related conduct will be treated the same as alcohol-related conduct under the party's joint treatment program for alcohol-related and off-field violent conduct, which provides mandatory evaluation, voluntary treatment, and the possibility of discipline by a player's club or the commissioner's office in response to certain conduct involving natural cannabinoids. End of quote. The changes go into effect when spring training begins in 2020. Many players and other professional leagues have campaigned for similar changes in their sport. The National Football League announced in May it would be working with the Players Association to create a joint pain management committee that would, quote, conduct research concerning pain management and alternative therapies, end of quote. Among those alternative therapies, the NFL said, are cannabis, cannabinoids, and CBD. Major League Baseball also overhauled several other aspects of its drug policy, some targeted at preventing the tragedy that befell Los Angeles Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs in August. The 27-year-old was found dead in his hotel room in Texas while on a road trip. His cause of death was later determined to be due to a mix of fentanyl, oxycodone, and alcohol. On Thursday, the league announced it will begin testing players for the presence of opioids, fentanyl, cocaine, and synthetic THC. Players will not be suspended, however, unless they do not work with the league on a treatment program. Quote, any player who tests positive for one of these drugs of abuse will be referred to the party's joint treatment board, composed of medical professionals specializing in substance abuse and representatives of the Office of the Commissioner and the Players Association, for an initial evaluation and, if appropriate, formulation of a personalized treatment plan for that player going forward. Only players who fail to cooperate with their initial evaluation or prescribed treatment plan may be subject to discipline. End of quote. Again, that comes from Major League Baseball. All players and team personnel will also be required to attend programs outlining the dangers of using opioids for pain management during the 2020 and 2021 seasons, the league announced. Tony Clark, executive director of the Major League Baseball Players Association, said in a statement, quote, players are overwhelmingly in favor of expanding our drug testing regimen to include opioids and want to take a leadership role in helping to resolve this national epidemic, end of quote. Yeah, because opioids have become a big deal, especially when you've got players who are working hurt all the time. I'm in favor of this. I am glad that Major League Baseball has finally decided to get with the times, get with the program. You know, marijuana is not a gateway drug, as a lot of Republicans like to tell you. Or at least the Republicans that haven't gotten into the marijuana business themselves. See John Boehner for an example of that. It's not a gateway drug. There are other things that are gateways to using alcohol, to using any type of drug. You need to look at trauma. Trauma, folks. There's your answer. Unbelievable. And I've got some more news here, and I want to move on from that topic. I think I've talked about marijuana until I'm ready to grow buds out of my ears. I want to move on to this. This is Oliver Darcy writing for CNN Business. This is dated December 6th. Out of New York, Mike Bloomberg, the billionaire Democratic presidential candidate, said employees at his news organization just have to learn to live with some things when asked about their frustrations over the outlet's 2020 election policy forbidding the investigation of Democratic presidential contenders. In an interview that aired last week Friday with CBS This Morning co-host Gayle King, Bloomberg said, quote, "They get a paycheck, but with your paycheck comes some restrictions and responsibilities." End of quote. Bloomberg News announced last month that it would not investigate the Democratic presidential candidates after its owner, Mike Bloomberg, jumped into the race for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination. The outlet has long avoided probing him and said it would continue to do so as he seeks the nomination. To level the playing field, Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwaite said the newsroom would also not investigate the other Democratic presidential candidates. But Micklethwaite said Bloomberg News would continue to investigate the Trump administration as the government of the day. That decision prompted a furious protest from the Trump campaign, which announced on Monday that it will not credential Bloomberg News reporters for its events until the policy is rescinded. Brad Parscale, Trump's 2020 campaign manager, said in a statement, quote, "The decision by Bloomberg News to formalize preferential reporting policies is troubling and wrong," end of quote. Yet Trump won't call out Fox propaganda channel, my words. Bloomberg News reporters have been torn about how their outlet is handling the fact that its owner is running for president. Some Bloomberg News reporters have expressed optimism to CNN Business. Others have said they're concerned. One reporter told CNN Business, quote, "It's everyone's nightmare come true," end of quote. And right there is the problem in and of itself. It's the ownership of the media. When you have a media that has gotten, quote unquote, too big to fail, there's your problem. This is part of the reason why I personally support Bernie Sanders, because he has already said that one of his first priorities once he gets in office is that he's going to start breaking up the big media conglomerates. And really, that's the thing. And I guess maybe we need to play Carlin, because I haven't played Carlin in a long time. That's the problem when you have big media ownership. When it gets too big, when you have somebody too powerful, you can't have anybody question that power. And I guess I am going to play Carlin. This runs a little bit over 3 minutes. This is George Carlin talking about who really owns the country. And when you hear this, you need to start thinking about Michael Bloomberg, Jeff Bezos, the Walton family, the DeVosses, the Van Andels, the Secchias, the Myers, etc., etc., etc. Take a good listen, folks.
There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting f***ed by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe.